2018 Fiat 500L Cross Review. The good points of Fiat 500L Cross. 500 badge appeal. Practical interior. Flexible boot. Efficient diesel engines. The bad points of Fiat 500L Cross. Awkward styling. Interior quality. Underwhelming drive. Lackluster patrols. The Fiat 500 brand knows no bounds, which is the reason you can buy the normal hatchback, the 500C convertible, the rugged 500X along with the practical 500L urban in regular form. However, inside a bid to increase its appeal, the family-friendly 500L is usually available with assorted styling cues nicked from your 500X, available as the 500L Cross. Blending various model types means the 500L Cross carries a limited number of direct rivals, from your Vauxhall Crossland X, another pseudo-MPV crossover and compact Citroën C3 Aircross, to your plainer Volkswagen Golf SV and Hyundai X20. One issue originates from within, though, together with the 500X offering more cohesive off-road styling and greater ability plus an interior that's almost as practical since the 500L's. Rugged styling for the compact MPV. Differentiating the 500L Cross from a normal 500L urban is really a more off-road style hunt for the exterior. In place from the urban's chrome exterior trim in the front and side, the Cross has a satin chrome finish for the more rugged looks such as the 500X, as well as a different form of bumper that sits in line while using 500X, whereas the urban borrows cues from a normal 500. It's not every show without go, because Cross has gotten a 25mm increase in ground clearance compared together with the normal 500L, and is included with features, for instance an advanced traction plus traction control system which include hill descent control. Fiat calls it gravity control. Let's be clear though, the 500L certainly isn't an automobile to be tackling just a muddy track, as being the ground clearance still isn't that high and there's no use of four-wheel drive as while using 500X. Same engine range as 500L. The Cross comes using the full range of 500L engines, comprising 2 petrols and 2 diesels. A 1.4-liter petrol producing 95 horsepower commences the range, having a more powerful 120 horsepower 1.4-liter jet turbo available too, as you move. The multi-jet diesels come in 95 horsepower 1.3-liter and 120 horsepower 1.6-liter forms. You would like to stick to driving about in the petrol models, particularly the 95 horsepower version. Even the 120 horsepower turbo can seem to be a little gutless, but it really boasts the quickest 0.62 miles per hour time in the product range, taking 10.2 seconds to try and do the sprint. We'd choose the 1.6-liter multi-jet diesel. It's a little slower to 62 miles per hour, taking 11.5 seconds, however it feels far punchier as a result of a healthy 320 Nm of torque, so that it is much nippier on vacation and for the motorway. The 6-speed manual gearbox carries a positive shift action for it, plus the gear lever itself falls within easy reach on the driver. If you need your Cross with the automatic gearbox, you must make it using a 5-speed automated manual gearbox that's only provided with the 95 horsepower 1.3-liter diesel. It makes for any much more sedate drive than every other 500L model, but they can be slow to answer when you demand a little bit more performance from that. In fact, it will require 15.5 seconds to amble from 0.62 miles per hour. Nevertheless, the good news is it's the most beneficial in the product range, claiming 70.6 miles per gallon. practical interior fit for any small family. Despite the rugged add-ons, the Cross remains to be a 500 liters, meaning it's built to suit lifespan of a family. There's a flexible type of and spacious interior that has a large number of storage spaces for many kinds of family paraphernalia. There's additionally a 455-liter boot, which is often a good size thinking about the car's fairly compact exterior dimensions. This means you will be configured using a variable height boot floor for additional versatility. The rear seats split, fold and tumble forwards in the event you're carrying larger items, freeing up a full of 1,480 liters of cargo capacity. Following a raft of updates in 2017, the interior with the 500 liters Cross has a more up-to-date touchscreen infotainment system just like you'll find within the 500, and a clearer instrument cluster viewed by way of a new multifunction leader that's easier to hold and utilize. Some with the controls lower down about the center console, the climate control dials and gear lever, are already raised approximately fall within easier reach compared with all the 500 liters trekking that came before it, too, making the Cross better to drive and operate other functions within the move. Colorful and customizable. As you'd expect for the car that has a 500 badge, there's a variety of personalization choices on offer, with several exterior color schemes to pick from with contrasting roof colors, and a few trim options for the inner. The interior could do having a bit more color, though. Like standard form it can seem to be quite dull having a lot of black plastic used throughout. Not all of it does not take most pleasant to touch, with some other materials used. There's certainly less color inside weighed against what it is possible to do towards the outside. The cabin is bright though, that has a huge level of glass which makes it feel light and airy, and there's excellent visibility all around, rendering maneuvering around town very easy indeed. Small kids within the back have a great view out, too. There's the choice of adding a sizable panoramic sunroof to flood the cabin with light, but it really eats into rear headroom rather noticeably, so that you'll only want kids back there should you specify it. Adults will struggle for headroom. If you're spending a lot of period in town, selecting the city pack may be worthwhile, adding rear parking sensors along with a rear view camera, in addition to electric folding door mirrors as you move. The safety pack adds a dimming rear view mirror and autonomous emergency braking. The verdict. The 500 liters Cross can be a very niche example of an auto that's somewhat challenging to pigeonhole. But using a 500 badge within the back offering a clear degree of appeal, no less than in terms of eye-catching styling and personalization options, that can't hide a couple of downsides. Its interior isn't as enticing by sitting in like a regular 500, nor can it feel as well built as some rivals. However, it's a really practical car considering its compact exterior dimensions. Also, it should prove fairly cheap to run in case you opt for one on the frugal diesels. Just don't expect a scintillating driving experience, although that's unlikely to become high about the list of priorities for potential customers. The 500 liters' bright cabin, comfortable ride and easy to drive nature will probably be much more appealing, as you move the low running costs in the diesels appeal to cost-conscious buyers. Fiat 500 liters Cross review to determine if it's definitely worth the extra over not only the normal 500 liters, but its practical alternatives. 4 engines available. 2 petrols and 2 diesels. Diesels provide the best drive. Choosing which engine you'd like powering your 500 liters Cross shouldn't be too difficult, with just 2 petrol and 2 diesel options. Petrol engines. If you're contemplating a petrol 500 liters Cross, then you'll be better off staying about as they think's a little unresponsive and slow. Performance isn't essential here. The entry-level engine is often a 1.4-liter unit with 95 horsepower, able to taking the cross from 062 miles per hour in 13.2 seconds and onto a premier speed of 103 miles per hour with torque rated at 127 Newton meters. You ought to plan overtaking maneuvers quite far in advance in case you ventured on top of the motorway. Providing somewhat more shove is usually a 120 horsepower 1.6-liter turbocharged jet unit. The 062 miles per hour sprint time falls to 10.2 seconds, and top speed increases to 117 miles per hour. While there's an even more useful 215 Newton meters of torque to be had, meaning you will get lots more pull at low engine speeds. If you like petrol power, then in is the any one to have. Nevertheless, you'll have to make good use with the 6-speed manual gearbox to generate progress. It's not merely one for keen drivers, nonetheless it's perfectly acceptable for use out and about. That's where it's probably to spend the majority on the time. Multijet diesel engines. Kicking from the diesel range is usually a 1.3-liter multijet unit producing just 95 horsepower, but an infinitely more usable 200 Newton meters of torque compared with all the 95 horsepower petrol. However, it's one of the most sedative 500 liters models, taking 14.3 seconds to obtain from 062 miles per hour, and should be on to reach 103 miles per hour, driving by having a 5-speed manual transmission. If you desire an automatic transmission, this could be the only engine option, but even so it's a computerized manual Fiat calls a dualogic instead of a full-blown automatic, and blunts performance all the more. In this from the cross requires a leisurely 15.5 seconds to amble to 62 miles per hour at a standstill, while its top speed is 101 miles per hour. Wahoo is the most economical though efficient at just over 70 miles per gallon, based on Fiat. Best suited towards the cross, however, could be the 1.6-liter multijet diesel with 120 horsepower. Despite slower performance figures as opposed to 1.4-liter jet petrol, it feels much punchier due to 320 Newton meters of torque and also a smoother power delivery. It takes 11.5 seconds to acquire from 062 miles per hour, while a 114 miles per hour top speed is achievable in the event you find yourself with an unrestricted section of road. Limited gearbox options. All 500 liters cross models come having a 6-speed manual gearbox, in addition to the 1.3-liter multijet, which works on the 5-speed transmission whether it's manual or semi-automatic. The former is a straightforward gearbox to operate that has a fairly slick action, whilst the lever lies high about the center console so that you don't need to reach really far in to use it. It falls at hand nice and easily. The dualogic transmission available for the 1.3-liter diesel isn't a regular automatic, it's a mechanical manual, but nonetheless changes gear in your case without a clutch. It's just a little slower to accomplish this than a regular auto, thus it suits a much more relaxed, unhurried way of driving. High body means noticeable body roll. Slightly lifeless steering feels numb. Better for use out partying than country lanes. A sensible family carry-all isn't something that's gonna excite on the twisty, demanding road, and there's useless reason why it ought to. The Fiat 500 liters lives approximately this, which has a safe and predictable drive. Nevertheless, it can leave you feeling somewhat detached on the experience. Compare it with all the more hatchback-like VW Golf SV and it also feels a bit clumsier. The Golf SV seems to feel balanced and cozy, yet as being a hatchback to operate a vehicle, whereas within the 500 liters cross you're made very aware you're within a high-riding car which has a tall body. Tip the automobile into a corner and you also notice the body weight shift to at least one side, as well as the vague steering results in a slightly wayward feeling. it's much less bad, however you wouldn't feel confident chucking it into corners. Then again, it's not really that kind of car. The ride, however, is a useful one, even around the relatively large 17-inch alloy wheels, and also the 25mm raised ride height compared with a normal 500 liters may perhaps be to thank here. That's also the explanation it can seem to be a little more reliably. Drive the 500 liters cross the way it was designed to become driven, which is, about and not near grip and traction levels, plus it's a easy car to acquire on with. Visibility is superb, plus the light steering means maneuvering the car in the city is quite simple. The tall, narrow body only aids this further. Being a cross model, it offers a bit more off-road ability compared to a regular 500 liters. What this means in reality, though, is the fact you can tackle a muddy gravelly track easier over a normal 500 liters, largely due to your traction plus traction control system on offer along with the very slightly higher ride height. It's the same system to Peugeot's grip control that adjusts the traction control system based around the road surface you're driving on. There are fewer options to select about the Fiat though, switchable between normal road, muddy track or gravity control hill descent control to many of us. Most drivers will not touch this selector though. Interesting interior looks the part. Quality is often a bit patchy in places. Ergonomics a lot better than 500 hatch. Jumping into your 500 liters cross is easy because of its higher ride height. Once in, you're met using a quirky design on the dashboard with lots of different shapes, textures and cubbyholes, but it really's not quite as effective as a normal 500 as well as its retro look. It's easy to obtain comfortable, though, having a good quantity of adjustment inside driver's seat plus a commanding view in the road ahead. Changes made to your car in 2017 mean the gear lever and heating controls are raised slightly higher than for the 500 liters trekking that superseded the Cross, making life a bit easier. There's a more up-to-date tire that's nicer to hold. Plus the view through it towards the instrument panel is different because of a new setup with clearer dials and also a slick digital display between the two. The plastics used inside the 500 liters Cross are disappointing, though. It all feels solid enough, but it really's a lot of black, all in several textures, and you cannot assume all of them are irresistible to touch. Some injection of color that you find in the standard 500 could well be very welcome, but at the least there are all sorts of shapes offered to keep things a bit more interesting. The infotainment system is really a bit of any mixed bag. It's easy enough to control the touch screen, nevertheless it's quite small, which means you'll need being accurate with where you're prodding for the move, which is often distracting when driving. Good seats and settled ride. Seats are supportive and comfortable. Panoramic roof causes some issues. One from the first belongings you notice regarding the 500 liters Cross if you jump inside would be the squishy driver's seat. It feels comfortable and supportive as well, thus it should be a comfy long-distance cruiser. Bad bumps from the road are ingested fairly well, even on fairly low-profile tires, and overall it's a civilized driving experience, in spite of the firmer-than-normal ride. It helps the automobile feel controlled. Wind and road noise are generally well suppressed, even though impact of driving on harsher surfaces can't be isolated on the cabin altogether. As in a normal 500 liters, if you select the panoramic roof option you'll find taller rear seat passengers is going to be complaining about headroom. It eats to the roof space noticeably. High-spec Cross models include plenty of kit. Easy to add a lot more, but tends to get pricey. Shouldn't be wanting for virtually every extras, though. The 500 liters Cross is based on the standard 500 liters in lounge spec, meaning it has a good choice of equipment as standard. And so that it should, as it's essentially the most expensive in the bunch to get. Standard Fiat 500 liters Cross equipment. The Fiat 500 liters Cross uses the 500 liters lounge to be a base on the subject of equipment, which affords it a relatively comprehensive number of kit, including 17-inch alloy wheels, dual-zone climate control, raised ride height, 7.0-inch touchscreen media system with Bluetooth, DAB radio, USB and aux connectivity, automatic lights and wipers, traction plus drive mode selector, flexible boot floor called Cargo Magic Space. Fiat 500 liters Cross optional equipment. Naturally, more equipment is usually added using the options list. There are several packs available, City, Safety and Style Plus, while individual options can be added. Things such as a SATNAV upgrade, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as well as an upgraded Beats audio system will appeal towards the technophiles, while more family-friendly features, for instance panoramic sunroof, armrests and flex packs with folding front seat and tray tables for rear passengers are sold. Safety needs to be good for the 500 liters. Previous model received 5 stars. But which was before current scheme. In 2012, the earlier version on the 500 liters received a 5-star rating from Euro NCAP, which can be a solid foundation for just a safe family car. However, underneath the more up-to-date testing program, the 500 liters Cross most likely to receive 5 stars because autonomous emergency braking doesn't come as standard. However, it's available as a possible option should you go for the City pack. Otherwise, you will find 6 airbags, 3 ISOFIX fittings for child seats as well as the usual safety systems like ABS and electronic stability control. Plenty of passenger space inside Cross. Easy to have in and away from, for those. Boot is flexible, however, not the biggest. 4 adults will comfortably fit inside the Cross, having a 5th unlikely to complain in excessive amount, either. The rear seats slide to and fro to switch between more legroom or maybe more boot space, however the seat base itself is quite flat. It could be tempting to spec your 500 liters Cross with all the panoramic sunroof to maintain the kids entertained, but as early as you put some adults inside the back, there are going to be complaints about not enough headroom because the glass roof derives passion for a lot of that space. In leading, however, there's tons of room and an abundance of adjustment inside seats, while visibility is very useful all around because of large, low windows. Fold-down tray tables are around for rear seat passengers, again a terrific feature when traveling together with the little ones. And there's a good quantity of storage bins and cubby holes dotted about the cabin. The 500 liters will be quite a compact car, despite its practical interior, as well as the wealth of glass means it's a breeze to maneuver. This Fiat's slab-sided design means it's simple to judge the extremities on the car, it's exactly the jutting out front that could cause some issues. Rear sensors help when parking, while a reversing camera can even be added as part on the City pack to increase the ease which you can maneuver. At 455 liters with all the rear seats constantly in place, the 500 liters S boot isn't the most important in comparison with its small MPV rivals, nonetheless it's one on the most flexible. For starters, the back seats slide back and forth so that you can expand the boot area easily in the event you don't have anyone particularly tall inside the rear seats to get mindful of their legs. Also, a variable height boot floor means you can decide on either a deep boot for larger items, or divide it and have a hidden underfloor area, or should you move it higher still, A shell. Folding the trunk seats down is not hard enough, but they also don't fold to the floor, meaning there isn't a sizable flat load area to be had. They do tumble forwards though, even though the passenger seat within the front also folds to handle longer items that lengthen the interior.